Okay, here we have the 12,000 pound two-post car lift, which is now delivered. We also have with it the motors in the back of the pickup, and so is a 18-gallon oil pickup. So now, today is December 10th, we have to wait another 2 weeks before the concrete's dry enough. Yeah, that's right, another 2 weeks. See you in a few minutes. So about 10 seconds of video was compressed down. It took us probably an hour and a half to get everything unpackaged and off the lift. So once we did that, I started going through the parts, started hooking things up. First thing that we were putting in was this hydraulic arm. That thing is actually pretty heavy. I know it looks like it's not, but that's rock solid. So the first step was to line them up. You saw it had the fittings for the hydraulic pipes and hoses, and there's one already connected to that. And then this lift has a extension on it, so it goes extra high for trucks that might have like a cab or a dump body. And that's what we're doing, is we're connecting the extension, getting all the bolts in there. At this point, we really don't know how heavy it is, but when we put it together, we realized it was extremely heavy. We got more guys to help us lift it up. Here we're connecting the top arm. You can see we walked it over to the side so we can go up to the loft, and then we were able to connect up more pieces. That bar up there, that is the fail switch bar. If it reaches that height, if it bumps it, it's gonna stop the lift from going up any further. Ryan right now is actually hooking up the actual switch to it that will trigger the lift and stop it from going any further. So at this point, I started assembling the safety latches that go on either side. And when I was putting this together, I had a really good feeling that I was going to have to take it apart several times over the course of the installation. This was the first time, and then when I'm done, I've got to put a cover on it. The cover had to be removed several times in order to add parts that the instructions were kind of like a little all over the place. The instructions really were not good. That's the one thing that I would say that needs to be worked on this, is the instructions did not point to part numbers. You've got bags of screws, different sizes, and in order to figure those out, it gets a little bit difficult to figure out if you've got the right ones. If you got the pictures on there, they weren't great. Then in this picture here, what we're doing is we're getting ready to hook up the hydraulic hoses. You can see the motors mounted already. Ryan's running it across, standing on top of that ladder. That I think is a 13-foot ladder, or 12 or 13-foot ladder, but we're way up there at the top, and it gets a little shaky because it's very hard to reach over that edge. But we were throwing things over, and of course I had Ryan do it so I won't fall. So Ryan and I ran a 240 volt wire. I'm not going to show you what we did because it's probably not up to code. We know how to do it. I'm pretty sure it is up to code, but it may not be. But I'm not an electrician, so I don't want people to do what I did because I could be wrong. So anyway, as I'm getting this wiring set up, going back to the instructions, they really sent me the wrong instructions when it came down to it, because there's a model that has an X after this one. It's Atlas 12PX or something like that. This is the 12P. They gave me the instructions for the X. And some of the wiring was different for the failsafe switch, and the hydraulic hoses were different. I actually had to call them up, and I talked to them on the phone, and they're like, oh no, you just need to do this, this, and this. I'm like, well, that's not what the instructions say. And it turned out I had the instructions for the wrong model. And he says there's nothing different on these lifts. It's just how they're connected. So they gave me the wrong ones, and that took a little bit of time to figure out. So right now I'm bleeding the hydraulic arms, raising them for the first time, and getting out the air and setting everything up, and also getting to the point where I've got to adjust those cables that you see inside the lift. So those cables, one goes up, it pulls the other one up. So that's how it's in sync together. So now I'm adjusting it. It wasn't that hard to do this. Overall, I mean, this was fairly easy. Just follow the instructions. I ran into a couple of hiccups here and there. Some of it was my fault. Some of it was the instructions. But it really wasn't hard. There's definitely things where you're going to need at least 2 people, maybe more to lift some of these things up. You need tall ladders. But it all went together pretty smooth. This is the safety cable that I'm connecting right now. It's just a thin cable that goes from one latch on the other side to the latch where the handle is. So when you're lowering the lift, you pull that handle down so that it makes it past those locks. And those have to be connected perfectly together so that when you pull one back, the other one goes back just as far so that the actual mechanism can go down. And just took a little bit of adjustment, but got those all done. So just wrapping everything up, putting the covers back on. I still haven't drilled yet because we haven't had the couple weeks go by that needed to happen in order to do that. So we're going to finish up here, and now the day has come where I'm actually drilling. This was my first mistake. I used my hammer drill. I've used this drill before to go through this concrete, and it's never been great. But I'm getting through the holes. I'm thinking I'm blowing through drill bits, and what's happening is this drill is not made for this. Even though it's a hammer drill and I've got a concrete bit on it, and I've gotten a couple of holes drilled. We've already got 2 on the other side. And I'm using the vacuum to clean out the hole as I go. I thought maybe that was part of my problem. Problem was, this just is not capable of going through concrete. At a moment here, I realized that my drill is broken, and I've no longer got the hammer capability. It's just now this is just a regular drill. I've only had this drill a couple months. You can see I got down somewhat in these holes, but I ended up leaving and getting a new drill, and I ended up going to Home Depot and I got a Milwaukee hammer drill, and that's what got me through these holes, and it got me through it like butter. I'm not showing you how long I was actually there, but it was probably a good hour or 2 trying to get through these holes, or trying to get these holes down, and I'm getting them down a little bit, 2 inches, 3 inches, but eventually it just stopped working, and I no longer had the hammer capability. So this is about where I give up and realize that I'm making no progress. I'm not getting this drill bit in, and I left and I got my got the Milwaukee, and you can see how quickly this goes. Once I know it's in fast motion, but this is just going right down there, and boom, done. Onto the next one. Cleaned it out. It's ready. I did run into a problem with that bolt and the one right after it. They were spinning while I was in there, so I had to do a couple of different things to get them from stop spinning. I was able to do that without pulling the bolts out, but it actually cut off like a day's worth of work it stopped me for a day because I could not get them in. I was trying to figure out how am I going to get these bolts out, but eventually I did, and got everything bolted up. Everything's solid, and I finished putting on the arms. This again was fairly simple. This was another one-man job because I've had enough of the 2-3 men kind of jobs where you can't do anything unless I got other people around. Hooking up the arms are easy. You just put everything in, line it up. There's a snap ring on the bottom, and you step on it, bang it, do whatever you got to do. But everything's in there, and we're just about ready to get the lift set up, and I'm going to raise it at this point, get those snap rings in. Everything seems to be working. There's the snap rings. Boom, they're in. And then I didn't show you the other side because who really cares about seeing this again? But now up and down we go. Everything's looking good and ready to put a car on it. So here we go to that. So at this point we're pretty much done. We're pushing the car in, and now I've got to line it up. I've never done this before, so I'm not sure about where the points are, but I did look it up, and then I ordered a book on where to lift most cars up from, and came in less than a week. It was like $15, but it has all the lift points for most cars made like in the last 20 years. See, everything's going up smoothly. I'm checking everything out as we're going up to make sure that we're good, because it is a little nerve-wracking. I know in the video it kind of looks like it's off to one side, but it's not. It is pretty much in the center. We're going up to take a look with the camera, and you can see the jack points right there. Looks good. It's right underneath there. There is like a little rubber cup that the back sits on. Going around to the front, I did not nail this one. Can't see it there, but I'll show it to you another one. Here you go. That's still sliding around. It was actually resting on the weld, on the body welds right there. So when I took the car down next, I went ahead and put a spacer in there and then raised it back up, and it was fine after that. So everything looks good. We've lifted a couple cars up now, up and down. Haven't had any issues. Nothing doesn't seem unstable. Everything looks really solid. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. The thing I didn't like was the instructions. Those were really bad. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.